Welcome to Spring LIB.
Okay, so problem 4 has us looking at how to take the product of two matrices. Okay, so it'd be the product where we have, let's say, matrix A and B, where A is going to be m by k, and B will be k by n. And then the product is going to equal an m by n matrix. And to do that, so if we have our m by k for A here and our k by n matrix B in our product matrix, to get, say, if you wanted the element in the first row or second row and first column here, you would take all the elements of the second row of A and the first column of B, right? And so then by doing that, you'll take the first element of each, multiply them, add it to the second element of each, multiply together, the third element of each, multiply together, and so on. And once you create that sum, that'll give you this element. And it's a little bit confusing, so it's a good thing we have a few examples here, right? So for part A, we're given two 3x3 matrices. So our product will be a 3x3 matrix. And so what we want to do is, so to find the first row, first column element, we're going to take the first row of A and the first column of B, right? And so we'll take, using these this row and column, then we're going to multiply each item in it and add it together, right? So we're going to take 1 multiplied by 0, which gives us 0. We'll add that to 0 multiplied by 1, which is also 0. We'll add that to 1 multiplied by negative 1, okay, which is going to be negative 1. Okay, and so when we add all that together, that'll give us negative 1 in this location. And so then if we want to move on to the first row, second column, so we're going to stay in the same row of A, but we'll move over. So we'll move over to the second column of B. Okay, so now we're looking at this column here. So then we'll take 1, but this time we're multiplying it by 1, so that gives us 1 here. Then we have 0 multiplied by the negative 1. Well, that's going to give us 0 again. And we'll have 1 multiplied by 0, and so that's going to give us 0 again. Okay, so we add all that up and we get a positive 1. Okay, and then to get this last element of the first row, we'll take 1 here, and then this time we're moving over to the third column, right? So take 1 times negative 1, which will give us negative 1. Then we'll take 0 times 0, 0 times 0, and then we'll have positive 1 times positive 1. Okay, so then that's going to give us a 0. Okay, and then we repeat the process, except this time using the next row. Okay, so then we'll have 0 times 0 plus negative 1 times 1. So now we're at negative 1, and then we'll add negative 1 times negative 1 to that, which is a positive 1. So that's going to give us 0 for this next entry. Same row, new column. We'll get 0 times 1 for 0, negative 1 times negative 1 for a positive 1, and a negative 1 times 0 for 0 again. So that adds up to positive 1. And we'll stay in the same row, new column. So new column here on B, and so we get 0 times negative 1, that's 0. Negative 1 times 0 is also 0. Negative 1 times 1 is a negative 1, so that gives us negative 1. All right, then we move on to our final row. Same process though. Okay, so we start with the first column. So 0, -1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 1 is 1. 0 times -1 is 0. So we get a positive 1. Next row, but next column of B, same row of A, we take -1 times 1 for a -1, -1 times 1 for a -1, and then 0 times 0. Okay, so that gives us -2 here. And then the last item on the list here, same row of A, new column of B, we'll get -1 times -1 for a positive 1, 1 times 0 for 0, and 0 times 1 for 0. So that's going to give us a 1. And then this gives us our solution here. Okay, and so that was just the letter A. We're doing the same thing for B. So here's the product for B. This time we have a little bit of a different shape to the matrix. We have a 3x3 and a 3x4 matrix. Okay, and so that means our resulting matrix will be 3x4. And so the same process holds where we take, say, one column of A and a column of B to get our values, right? So we'll take the first column of A, add it to, take the product of each of those with each element of the first column of B, right? So we'll get 1 times 1 plus -3 times -1 plus 0 times -3, just going to give us 4. If we move over to the next column, we'll get a 1 times -1 plus 0 times -3, which is 0, plus 0 times -2. Okay, so that's just -1. Move over to the next column, we'll get 1 times 2, so that's going to be 2. -3 times 3, so then that's -9, so we're at -7, and then the last value will be 0, so we'll stay at -7 then. And then we get to the last column here. So then 1 times 3 is 3, plus -3 times -1. So plus 3 more for 6, and then 0 times 2. So that's going to be 0. Okay, and I can put this last bracket in, and then we'll do the same thing for the next row, right? So we start at the next row here, and then we'll go ahead and go to the first column again. So if we want to take 1 times 1, right, that's going to just give us 1, and then we'll take -1 times 2, so we'll do -2, and then we'll get 2 times -3, so that would be -6, for a total of -7. Okay, and we stay in the same row, but we move to a new column. So we get 1 times -1, because -1, 0 times 2 is 0, and then 2 times -2 is going to be -4. So that gives us -5. And then we move to the next column in the same process. We'll get 1 times 2 is 2, plus 2 times 3 is 6, plus 2 times 0 is 0. It's going to give us 8. And then the final row, we get 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 times -1, so -2, and then plus 2 times 2 is 4. So total of 5. And if we repeat that process with this final row here, so we take this last row, and we'll first take the sum of the first column for 4. We'll do the second column, will give us 0. Third column gives us 7, and the last column will give us 3. Okay, so that's the product of this one. And then we have one final part to this question, part C here, and it's the exact same process. So this time we have a 3 by 2 and a 2 by 5 matrix, which will result in a 3 by 5 matrix. Okay, so this is going to equal to a 3 by 5 matrix. And we'll start with the first row here and first column, right? So you see that since this first one is a 0, we're pretty much just going to multiply then this bottom row by -1, right? So we'll get 0 times 4, which is 0, plus -2 times -1. So that gives us 2. We do the same thing. We get 0 here, and then a -1 times 0. We're going to get 0 times 2 for 0, plus -1 times 3, and so on. So we got -3, then -4, and -1. Okay, so that was nice. This next one is a little bit different. So we have 7 at the top. So we're going to take 7 times the value in the first row and add it to 2 times the value in the second. So we get 28 minus 4 for 24. We move here, we just get -7. We move here, and we get 14 plus 6 or 20. We move here, we get 21 plus 8 for 29. And then this one has that nice 0 in it, so we end up with just a 2. And then we have our last row, and we go ahead and check with all of our columns in B again. So then we're going to get -4 times 4 for -16, plus -3 times -2 for +6, leaving us with -10. And we'll do -4 times -1 for a +4. Then we get -4 times 2 for -8. Add that to -9, we'll get -17. -4 times 3 is going to give us -12, and then -3 times 4 is going to give us another -12, so it's going to be -24. And finally, we'll just get a -3. Okay, so you really just follow, go across the row, down the column, add each product together, and